Hello, welcome to our second video on ELT. Today I'd like to talk about what to teach. And I hope you remember that in the previous video I mentioned the small stuff, the big stuff, and the real stuff. Let's go deeper into this. Small stuff includes vocabulary. Language emerges as vocabulary first. This is super important, and very little can be conveyed without vocabulary. So I hope this shows the importance of starting with vocabulary. Two ideas that meaning and sound must be introduced earlier than spelling, so students know what they say and what it sounds like before the spelling, especially for Spanish speakers who tend to pronounce things the way they are written. And to elicit, there's a chance somebody in the classroom knows what you're teaching, so elicit rather than say it. Pronunciation, as Adrian Underhill says, should be something physical and visible. And we should take advantage of moments to teach pronunciation rather than plan whole lessons based on sounds. And this procedure, DDD, is pretty interesting. We should demonstrate the sound, drill it a lot, and then help students find a context in which they can use it. So let them use it spontaneously if possible. And the three M's, going back to Underhill's ideas, we need to show students what happens in the mouth when we produce sounds, what muscles are involved, and also it's our job to help them remember pronunciation from one class to the other. As regards grammar is a big question, but I include it in the small stuff because unfortunately grammar is sometimes taught as a structure rather than as something we can use to convey meaning, to communicate. So function should be more important than form, especially in contexts in which they need to communicate and be motivated. So focus on function and also form, but not more important. A procedure to introduce grammar communicatively could be summarized in a global presentation that is exposing students to a text that contains the structure that we want to introduce. We deal with that text as such. We read it, we listen to it, we view it. After that, we isolate the teaching point. This is, we ask students to focus on a part of the text, a sentence that contains the grammar we want to teach, and with that phrase written on the board, we start systematizing on a phonological level, a grammatical level, and a functional level, always eliciting if possible. This would be an inductive way of teaching grammar, and it's probably going to be more meaningful and help students become more independent when learning languages and realize grammar in the future. The PPP procedure, just fine. Presentation, practice, production. We all know this. And the EEE procedure would be exposure, exercise, and execute. The big thing about the EEE procedure is that execution, that is to say production, mirrors presentation. So we need to find a way in which students are introduced to the grammar in a context, let's say a dialogue, and they have to produce the same grammar in a dialogue. So that'll be meaningful for them. The big stuff includes the skills. The receptive skills should be very important because, in fact, as Stephen Krashen says, we learn from being exposed to the language. So this is the receptive skills. And we need to keep studying and understanding top-down and bottom-up processing. That this means the role of prior knowledge in the understanding of texts and the role of language or vocabulary in the understanding of text. This is something we can deal with later on. Pre, while, and post activities refer to the things we do before, during, and after reading a text, and they are all super important to activate prior knowledge, to keep students active as they read or listen or view, and to do something afterwards to help them remember and understand and produce something. And the discussion we can have is also whether we should use authentic texts or roughly tuned texts. I believe that roughly tuned texts are necessary, especially with beginners, so they can understand what they are exposed to. The productive skills are not so easy to teach, but we should keep trying. It's important to set clear tasks so students know what they have to do, model the task with a student who knows English or maybe a recording, or we can be creative. We should monitor the task as they work, and we need to provide feedback. And this feedback means that we need to reconsider error correction. What are we supposed to do with this? If it's not impeding communication, we can make a list of the things we observe and do some remedial teaching next class, but not interrupt. And going back to correction, we need to respect students' silent period. They're not supposed to be able to produce language as soon as they are exposed to it. So although it's fine to ask them to talk and write in the early stages, they might need more time to do so in a spontaneous way. Now the real stuff, this is a good question. What is it that we have to teach when we teach English? And I don't think I can answer this question, but I would like to open the debate. We can talk about this in class. I believe that the real stuff is anything that helps students communicate and use the language, and also understand cultures and understand the effect of talking with someone and understanding the way they think and the way they understand the word as such. So it's not just about the vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and skill stuff, but we need to rethink everything we teach. Values, what are we teaching when we teach English? Intercultural approaches, metacognition, and a lot more. So let's keep talking about this stuff. And I would like to go back to this picture. That's a place where I want to be as soon as they let us go out after quarantine.